and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/194. Email the show pedalshift@pedalshift.net. And call the voicemail hotline 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 194th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name is Tim Mooney. Thank you for coming back for part one of the Kessel run of Central Florida bike tour. This is a very exciting thing. I believe this is volume 17 of Tour Journals, if memory serves, but I think I'm going to be retiring keeping track of all of them. I think they're just going to all have unique names now. So this is Tour Journals, the Kessel run. A reminder, because this is just a part one of many, to come back next Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time to check out part two in Pedalshift Project number 195. And then again, and this is brand new, join me live Friday, February 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Pedalshift Live, and that's going to be a live wrap-up show of the Kessel Run Tour. But that's not all. It's also going to include the announcement of my Spring 2020 tour, and it just so happens how that impacts Pedalshift episode number 200. Wow, lots of great stuff happening. Reminder, Friday, February 21st, Pedalshift Live. Go to pedalshift.net/live for more information on all of that. On to the Kessel Run. Central Florida has 1,000 personalities. Sure, we all know about the theme parks in the big cities of Tampa and Orlando, but there are also huge swaths of barely developed pastures, orange groves, irrigation canals, and lakes to catch a cyclist's eye while pedaling the miles away. A lot of people come to Florida to escape the chill of winter and return with stories and surprises. Me, I went to go fly the Millennium Falcon, but that's another story. And after that, well, I rode across Florida. This is that story. The beginning of my trip began with getting myself and my Brompton to Florida. That's always an adventure. Then an interregnum at Disney's Galaxy's Edge for a nerd out day. Here's how things started. Greetings from a busy as heck Washington National Airport. Apologies for the massive amount of background noise, but this is just how it's going to be because there's literally no quieter place. Terminal A is kind of it's a poop show. I'll go PG-13 on that. It's a poop show. A couple of updates I think worthy of note. The first thing is an update to the entire notion of bicycling to Tampa International Airport. So here I am at the very beginning at an airport. I'll be talking about the end of this tour. Interestingly, it is rated as one of the worst airports in terms of bicycle access in the country right now, but it literally just within the last couple of weeks got awarded by the League of American Bicyclists to be a future greatest bicycle access airport in the country, which is kind of interesting and exciting, but not helpful for this trip. They're going to be building essentially a bike trail that will go straight to the terminal, which is really exciting for purposes of future trips to or from Tampa. But for the early stages here, it was interesting. There's an article which I will link into a future version of show notes somewhere somehow that speaks to the lack of access. Apparently there are folks who work at the airport terminal that bike in. Somehow, I can't figure it out, they listed 2 roads in this article where folks come in, but I don't know how they get to the terminal itself by bicycle because there are no bikes allowed, 4-lane highway, not unlike the roads that I described that are at the Walt Disney World property, where you would really honestly be taking your life in your hands if you were cycling on it, but there might be some weird back way that cuts through in some way, shape, or form that's kind of quasi-legal. I think it redoubles my initial theory that my best option for bicycling to the airport at the end of all of this is going to be going to the car rental terminal. And maybe that's what the article was referring to, that folks would bicycle to the car rental terminal, walk up there somehow, some way, someplace. It'll be interesting to see if there's bike parking there. And then taking the shuttle from there to the main terminal. It'll be interesting to see, but that sort of redoubles the end of the tour thoughts for me right now. Today was mostly about the continuation of last night's packing, which was totally fine, totally good, and very minimal. I'm wearing, it feels like, half of the clothes that I'm bringing just on the plane going down to Florida right now. Right now I'm wearing the single pair of pants that I'm going to have on the entire trip. I just realized that I left behind my rain pants. That is a bit of a gamble, I'm going to be here to say. In fact, kind of a dumb idea as I'm sitting here. I meant to grab them and throw them in, but I never did. So I am in not a pickle. These pants that I'm wearing right now are relatively quick dry pants, but I would prefer not to ride in the rain in them. I'd much rather have my rain pants with me, but I don't have them. So challenge number one, all of you will find out before my trip even begins that I have put myself behind the 8 ball a little bit. I suppose I could buy rain pants down in Florida if it was really necessary, but the forecast, which I feel like is kind of locked in by this point, once you're within 48 hours of a forecast, it tends to be pretty reliable. The timing of the rains always kept shifting, and at the last moment in the last, say, 12 hours or so, the rain that I'm expecting to get Friday night into Saturday has shifted much later on Friday and more into Saturday. It's still going to be an open question whether or not it will be raining when I choose to check out of the hotel. I don't know what it's going to look like, but if it is, I am going to be stuck in at least a little bit of drizzle or light rain. It doesn't look like it's going to be very heavy at that point, so maybe not a huge big deal, but perhaps kind of a comfort situation for me. We shall see. More to come on all of that. Other things that I'm wearing, I've got little socks. I'm wearing one pair of trail shoes, so again, if those get wet, that's what I got. That's what I'm working with. And merino wool. I got a new merino wool layer that I am rocking right now that I think will be more than adequate for this trip. And that'll be for probably the mornings more than anything else. High on Friday is going to be into the upper 70s Fahrenheit. So while I'm in the park on my kind of Star Warsy day, it's actually going to be quite warm. For the other 2 days, it looks like the highs are going to be in the low 70s Fahrenheit, which is very, very comfortable. But in the mornings, probably starting off in the 50s, so it might be a little bit cool to start, and having the merino layer will be good to have. I've got 2 short-sleeve wicking layers for if I do get warm, which I typically warm up very quickly, so I may find myself stripping out of those relatively quickly. No problems getting stuff into my duffel. Normally for a more geared up tour where I'm bringing tents and stuff like that, the duffel's pretty much at capacity when I check it. Very rarely do I worry about it being near the weight limits for checking a bag. It's very rarely that high, but this one, it's really half full, quite frankly, and part of it is even cardboard for my transfer of the bicycle between the 2 hotels over the next couple of days. Well, the one thing that I don't think I really underscored so much on the show that was released today as I'm sitting here recording is that I'm going to have the Disney Bell services transfer my bike between the 2 hotels. So you're not allowed to bring stuff, basically suitcases and whatnot, and probably almost certainly folded up bikes on Disney transportation, which is my only real option other than getting like a lift. So I'm going to have Bell Services do it for me while I'm getting up stupid early to go to the parks tomorrow as I sit here. And I want to make it as simple and carefree for them as possible because they may not realize that it's a bicycle. Who knows? So I'm going to have the Dimpa bag that the bike is going to be in, so it's got a handle, it's easy for them to move around, and then I have cardboard on the sides for it to give it a little bit extra protection. You just never know what's going to be available at a Disney-themed hotel, quite frankly, and generally speaking, you're not going to just find boxes folded up someplace. They tend to be really aggressive about getting rid of garbage and recycling within sight lines, so I'm bringing my box with me, and then I'll dispose of it properly after I'm done with the transfer, but before I hop on the bike on Saturday. So, I'm trying to think of any other interesting elements to the kits. Nothing really different than what I just spoke about on the show. I think that it all went very smoothly. I went through to the airport. It took a little bit longer than anticipated to get down here from where I live, and that wasn't really that much of a big deal. And got through security in a flash. I don't know if they are just sort of nonplussed or not interested in the fact that I've got a folding bike going through the conveyor, but I found going through TSA security was rarely an issue with the bike. I think the only place where I've ever had a question mark in security was actually in Italy, the first time that I flew with Brompton, actually, which, of course, made me stressed out about flying with a Brompton for, well, until maybe last year or so. Now, I'm really not worried. For Southwest, I got the early bird, I paid for the early check-in, so I didn't have to, keep mashing it at 24 hours to check in. If you're not familiar with Southwest Airlines, they do things a little bit differently. They have a setup where the people who check in first get in line first, essentially, to board. They don't have assigned seats, so you grab whatever. So for Bromptons, it's actually pretty good. If you can get an early boarding setup, then you're pretty much guaranteed to be able to get your bike up in the overhead compartment. So I always tend to buy the early bird, I think I call it that, setup, where basically they check you in for you, and you're pretty much assured, if not in the first 50 seats, very close to that. And on a plane that size, that means you'll get on well in time to be able to get your bike up and into an overhead. So I am kind of not really stressed out about things at this moment. That is it from Washington National Ronald Reagan, I can never remember the order of these things, but airport, DCA. Talk to you later. Hello again, folks. I promised I wasn't going to do too much on the Disney side of things, but I really did want to mention I got through the airport and no problem. The bike did great. Wonderful situations with the bike getting into the plane, got it overhead. Hopefully you saw the pictures if you're following along on Instagram. By the way, make sure you're following along on Instagram, Facebook, etc., etc. So I get to the transportation point, which is great. If you've never done Disney before, I haven't done a Disney park in quite some time where I stayed on the resort property. Cool thing about it is they will take your checked bags. You just they send you in the mail some luggage tags, and they will actually pick it up for you and deliver it to your room later. So I'm stressing out a little bit about that at this current moment, but I will say I just got to my room, which, I got a text that my room was ready. I could go straight to it because they have these funky little wristwatchy things that they send you called magic bands. Again, not a commercial for any of this, but I do want to say I got the upgrade, folks. First of all, I walk in and the enormous TV says, "Welcome Mooney Family," which is hysterical. I'll definitely put a picture of that up. But I'm sort of like expecting a kind of, reasonable room. It's Disney's expensive with their hotel rooms and whatnot. But I walk in here and I notice there's a dining room table. Yes, a dining room table. And as I explore this bigger than our apartment in D.C. space, I'm not kidding. There is a living room. There is a dining room. There is a wet bar. There is a separate kitchen area. I'm just noticing this now. The bedroom, I have this enormous king-size bed, which is fantastic and wonderful. Oh, another TV that says, "Welcome Mooney Family." Hi. And not one, but two bathrooms with 2 sinks in each one. This is much more room than is necessary for me. I got the funniest feeling that I got upgraded some way, somehow. All right. Well, in my second hotel room, because for a variety of scheduling reasons, I'm not going to be staying in this insanely dope room. I'm going to be in a different hotel room tomorrow night. And Disney, as I've mentioned before, is going to be transferring all of my bags and my bike. And I'm a little stressed out about that from a bike touring perspective. They do good work typically here at the resort, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to be getting that all arranged tonight, if not, hopefully tonight, if not very, very, very early at dark 30 in the morning tomorrow. So you will hear, did they take care of my bike touring gear while I was off enjoying the park, the Disney experience. So, but you should know that I am in a dope room and looking very forward to my day in the Star Wars land tomorrow. All right, I hope you're having a wonderful time and having a wonderful night. I'm super excited for tomorrow, but I'm also super excited for the bike tour that is to come. More on all of that. A quick update. I am exhausted. Holy moly. You're going to get the short version of this. Had a great time. Really enjoyed it. Very interesting bit of events from a bicycle touring perspective. The interesting thing about the bicycle tour tomorrow, two things. One, the rain has shifted. It is basically going to be most of the day tomorrow. It was a little bit drizzly today. Fine. Temperatures aren't going to be a problem. Two, I forgot my rain pants. I may have mentioned that. I have one pair of pants. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I don't get the impression that there's going to be downpours. I think it's going to be very light rain. I think I'll be fine. However, it will be interesting. I've got a 44-mile day tomorrow. I'm going to be going through Lakeland. I changed my route, and I think it's actually a little bit more mileage than necessary, but I think that I will be happier because I'll probably get some food in Lakeland at one of the variety of great places there, and then go to Plant City and wrap up my day that way. So I think that I'll be happier with that. I may be a little damp, but we'll see how it goes. These pants are relatively quick dry, so I think it'll be fine. What a great day. Looking forward to this tour. My bike looks to be in wonderful shape. I've got everything here. Everything ended up working out from the equipment perspective, and I'm looking forward to getting some sleep. I'm going to sleep in. Sunset's at 6 o'clock tomorrow. I've got lights if I need them. I don't anticipate that I will, but they're there if I knew. I'm looking forward to this ride, but I am exhausted, and I need to get some real sleep. So that's what I'm going to do. Check you out tomorrow. My childhood dream of flying the Millennium Falcon being sated, it was time to roll. Day one of the tour began with a mini fast forward from the Disney property to the beginning of Dean Still Road in the exurbs of the Orlando, Florida area. With rain in the air and a little over 40 miles of riding ahead of me, I gathered my gear and hit record. Good morning from the Disney Pop Century Resort in, well, I guess we call this Lake Buena Vista, Florida, but outside of Orlando. What a great day I had. It was a lot of fun, a lot of effort. I did not check my steps. I should probably have done that. I know I at one point I was looking and I had walked at least 8 miles, and I'm sure I was well over 10 and probably quite a bit over 10 by the end of the day. So yesterday was not exactly a low energy output kind of day, and it would be interesting. Will I feel like I have exerted more at the end of today or after yesterday? Because it was a lot of energy output. So here we are, as I am here in my hotel room, just waking up and getting kind of oriented. I am making coffee because I need some coffee, and I'm sort of assessing what my situation is here. The rain forecast kept shifting around over the course of the last week, and it looked like originally it was going to be very good for me and very favorable, and in the end, it ended up straddling things a little bit. I got a little bit of rain last night, but really very minimal amount, very sprinkly amount. Lots of people in ponchos that I was just sort of like, why are you even wearing that? So I never even had to consider putting my rain jacket on yesterday. Today, it's gray and it's a little drizzly, but it's also before 9 a.m. and I don't have to be out of the hotel room until 11 a.m. And even then, it's not like I have to exit the property or whatever. It's just that I would need to be someplace where it's easy for me to maneuver with all of my gear. So I'm sort of assessing what I want to do with my 2 hours here. Do I want to go someplace, enjoy something, get some breakfast, and then come back and leave? Or do I want to just kind of keep the energy low and figure out and assess my gear? Because, frankly, I assume that the bike is in good shape. It seems like it was well handled, but I should give it a once-over, and this is probably a better time to do it than any other. I had mentioned on the show that I have challenges if I buy anything of note. I did not buy much. I did a lot of, you can hear my coffee finishing up in the background here. I did buy one thing that is going to be challenging, and that is I built a lightsaber. Now, you don't need to know what a lightsaber is or anything like that, but the practical ramifications are, A, it's relatively heavy for such a small thing. Not so much that I can't carry it on the bike. It's, maybe a couple of pounds or something like that.
Maybe more than that. I mean, it's got some heft to it. The thing that's tricky, though, is the blade is this kind of light... Oh, coffee's done. This light-emitting thing that I can take off. I do know I can take that off, and I'm going to need to. But how am I... It's about 3 feet long. The joke, I think I may have mentioned this on some other... I think I may have even mentioned it on episode 500 of the Sprocket podcast. I can't remember. It would be kind of funny to do the pool noodle trick with it. But this thing was not inexpensive, and I don't think it would be a good idea. So I think I'm going to put it in the provided sheath, for lack of a better term, and maybe have that stick out the end of the bike on the rear rack. I think that's what I'm going to do, and then have the more substantial hilt part be inside, protected in the bag, the Orly bag. So I don't know. We're going to have to figure that all out. But that was the one thing that I had planned on doing, and I was like, I'll just figure it out when I get rolling. And yeah, so there's that. I also bought a stand for displaying the hilt of it. And it's kind of got a sharp end to it, so I've got to be mindful of how the placement of that goes, because I clearly don't want to puncture anything, especially if there's going to be any rain. It's not like sharp like a knife by any stretch of the imagination, but anyways, there's that. So the consequences of my trip have consequences on my bike tour as well. Let's see. Slept really, really well, as one would expect after a long day and having had very, very mediocre sleep. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show, but I track my sleep with an app that is connected to my Apple Watch. And so I wear my Apple Watch nearly 24 hours a day. It's kind of crazy. But it's been fascinating to see what goes on kind of with my body. Like, for instance, if I have even one alcoholic drink, it tends to impact my sleep in a really negative way, or at least I don't get nearly as good of a sleep as when I don't have any alcohol, which is just kind of an interesting thing to observe. That did not impact me last night, though. But what was very interesting is I had a very high spike heartbeat, an unusual one. And I wonder, there were a whole lot of weird things that I was doing yesterday, lots of exercise. I did have quite a bit of alcohol at those cantina visits. So, who knows? Oh, and I ate some sugar too at the end of the day or in the middle of the day, because I was just dragging so much. And I realized, with all of the quote unquote exercise I was getting, I was in a big calorie deficit. So I said, maybe I'll feel a little bit better if I had some sugar to kind of restore my energy stores. And that did make a big difference. But I do notice that from time to time that will, I'll feel my heart rate go up when I eat sugar. So I wonder if some of my pre-bedtime treat that I dug into had any impact on that. But in any event, it's something to notice. I feel fine, so everything was good about that. But it was just very interesting. The other thing is it could have been just a complete, like a sensor malfunction or a bad read, because it was really an outlier. And I did not wake up from it, and it wasn't like a spike that was so much that it was outside of my range of heart rate activity. It would have been as if I was awake and walking around as opposed to asleep. So anyways, that was just something to note. I will pay attention to that, of course, on the ride if I feel that there's something amiss. But I think it's more likely it was an outlier or a sensor malfunction of some type. Let's see. I think that's about it. I, of course, don't have any notes on me, so pardon me for not being as organized as I'd like to be. And it's maybe a metaphor for what I'm looking at right now, which is all of my stuff strewn across a desk right now that I'm going to have to get organized and into bags and kind of figure it out from there. But first, I'm going to enjoy some coffee, and then I'm going to get organized, and then I think I'm going to decide what my final parts of this Disney trip are going to be. They're probably going to be more about getting maybe a little food into me, or just taking a look at the weather and deciding, do I want to just jump out into the drizzle and go with it, or do I want to wait it out a bit? More to come.
All right, quick update. We are still experiencing some rain here. I may be getting an RIAA takedown notice because of the song in the background, but hey, whatever. The lift is on the way. It'll take me about 20-30 minutes to get from here from now until I get to my drop-off zone. I'm getting dropped off at a spot that's not far from where my former route was when I went through Kissimmee the last time. So it's a bit of a fast forward in terms of some miles, but it just puts me squarely in a place where I feel comfortable riding rather than some of the more trickier areas, which I think is good. And it's not substantial. It just is a good kind of safety thing, especially on a day like today where it's a little gray out, the slightest bit misty, and I don't know if those conditions are going to maintain for a while. It does look like it's going to ebb at some point soon, but I'm happy to that it's not going to be much worse than this. So yeah, a little chaos here. A lot of folks checking in or checking out, and you know, it's the end of my Disney trip, but that's the beginning of a bike trip, and that is fun. The gear, man, I got everything into the bag. I don't know how this lightsaber thing is going to work. I still haven't figured that out. I'm going to be figuring that out at the subway. So there you go. All right, off we go. I am at the beginning of Dean Still Road here in, I believe this is Davenport, Florida. I am provisioned up. I have my classic subway sub situation, which is why I was dropped off here. Actually, I mean, I had Walgreens, I suppose, as an option. I'm kind of stepping around the corner here to see what else there was. There was a gas station here, and I got water and some hydrating fluids for myself. Very, very comfortable right now. Drizzle has stopped. Traffic was thick and heavy getting here, but Dean Still Road, as I probably mentioned the last time I rode it, is super quiet. It parallels I-4 and nobody takes it. And it goes for miles and miles and miles. I believe I've got 20 miles on this, if memory serves, before I do anything. So got everything I need and nothing I don't. Well, except for maybe the lightsaber, which is sticking out of the back. Yeah. I will value this lightsaber more than anything else, I think. The one real souvenir that I purchased on this trip. And it is kind of funny. Go check out the Instagram feed for that, because it's basically a long tail. I don't think there's a such thing as a long tail Brompton, and perhaps I just invented it. All right. In about a minute or so, I'm going to be putting on that helmet and launching. Off we go. Kessel Run 2020. Taking a quick break, about an hour in. Let's see. I don't know where I am. You got to figure I'm about 10 miles from where I started, roughly a quarter, maybe a little bit less than a quarter of the way into my ride. A few things of note. Traffic substantially higher than it was before, meaning last year. Don't know if it's just the time, this particular weekend, the fact that it's a Saturday, maybe it was a Sunday before. I just don't even remember. It might have even been a weekday. I'll have to go back and check at some point. But definitely thicker traffic. Been very fine, though, even though this is I think a 45 or a 55 mile per hour road in parts. Everybody's been giving me a lot of room. There is no shoulder, but sightlines are excellent. I am running lights. It's sort of like being in a cloud. It's a very, very fine amount of mist that's coming down, and it's fine. It's really, it's quite comfortable. My non-rain pants, I'm sort of grateful I didn't bring the rain pants, because it would have been just one more thing to bring. And these pants, I wouldn't call them waterproof. They're somewhat water resistant. And in a downpour, they're just going to soak. But in something like this, they're absolutely perfect. And I'm exactly the right temperature. I've got my pit zips open on my rain jacket. So it's probably somewhere in the 60s right now. Hands are fine. The one thing I am noticing, I'm getting a little bit of a tingle in the hand, so I'm going to try to be more mindful of shifting my hand position more. That's the interesting thing on the Brompton, is I tend to just go with the ergo grips in one position, and I'm not changing them as often like I do on the other bike. So as a result, I'm kind of getting a little bit of tingle, which is for this early in the ride is not super ideal. So I'm going to take a break here and get some movement going on, and then be more focusing on that. You can probably hear the traffic, by the way, in the background. It's really fine. It's been good. I've really enjoyed the ride so far. It's been quite fun. Been listening to the 500th episode of the Sprocket podcast, which is hysterical, because I make a reference to riding with a lightsaber that I was only thinking about buying. Well, of course, here I am looking at my lightsaber dangling out the back of the Brompton, the weird tail that I have. I wonder if I should tie something bright and orange to the rear of it. I don't think I need to, but it would be kind of funny. Well, in any event, things are going well. Really much enjoying this so far. Looking forward to getting back into Lakeland again at some point. We'll probably take a break in about another hour or so and consume some sandwich. I've been hydrating as I've been going here. Got quite a ways until there's any real things of note, place to buy more stuff. So I'm fully provisioned and should be in good shape. Feel good, feel real good. Tingle in the hands notwithstanding. It's been a great ride. It's a fun ride. It's fun to do this kind of stuff, man. May have gotten that kind of joy out of may have figured out that I get joy out of these things. All right, back on the road. All right, hopefully this will be listenable. I am riding on the Van Fleet Trail, which is, I believe, the only bicycle trail of note that I'll be on for this trip. And it's good because I changed direction and I'm in some tree cover. I had mentioned in the preview episode of this Kessel run that I would be riding against the prevailing winds, and I have definitely been finding that to be the case on this trip. And it's been fine, but noticeable. My average speed is probably in 10 to 12 miles per hour, which is kind of the wheelhouse for me on paved roads. The Van Fleet Trail is paved as well. Really wide and beautiful. I was really struck by it last year when I rode it. This year it's a little moister. But I will say the rain seems to have completely stopped. And it's getting to the point where it's sort of like, do I take off the rain gear and throw on maybe a merino wool layer or something else? Just trying to gauge what my heat situation is, temperature, all of that. So that's going to be something to figure out as I go along here. I'm also just getting to the point where I'm a little bit hungry again. I did have breakfast. When I don't ride, I tend not to do breakfast. When I do ride, I tend to. So I'm probably going to be enjoying my sandwich in a little bit, or at least half of it. If memory serves, there is a spot somewhere on this trail in the 6 or so miles that I'm on it where there's a table of some type. That would be kind of ideal. Ordinarily on this trip, this stretch, my recollection was there were precious few places to really sit down and take a break. So I think I'm going to take advantage of that if it does happen. Mechanicals. Man, this bike, it's a type of bike that you just don't have to worry about. It's been riding fantastically, rolls great, just effortless. The shifting's been great, and I really can't sing the praises of touring on a Brompton enough. It's just a fantastic ride. Now that my saddle has been broken in for a few years, I do really like the Brook saddle. It just it fits differently. You know, it's upright touring on this bike, so it's important that it sort of fits right for how I've been going. I'd mentioned, I believe, that actually, you know what? I mentioned this in the off Pedalshift brand podcast. I mentioned I was running for a bus the other day, yesterday, very early in the morning, and turns out when you don't run, you tend to pull certain things, and I had really pulled my right Achilles tendon, which I was concerned about, and I wouldn't say it bothered me. I noticed it all day yesterday. I walked over 10 miles yesterday. I did check my steps eventually, so a lot of movement on that. Well, when all's said and done, I've been on the bike now for 12 miles or so, and it's just feeling fine, feeling no ill effects of anything. In fact, I feel quite energetic, which is good because I got 30 some odd miles to go. It's important I feel energetic, but I'm noticing that there is a picnic table, I think, up ahead. So I think I'm going to take a more lengthy break here and enjoy my sandwich here in this beautiful agricultural area. Looks like there are animals being farmed. I'll say it that way. And, you know, just really nice and tranquil, and I kind of dig that. So it's time to enjoy a sandwich and a short break before I get rolling some more. So thank you for joining. Got more to come on this Kessel run, day 1. So just shy of about 25 miles into my day, so a little over halfway done. hitting another section of headwinds. Just went through a really remarkably nice new to me trail through, I believe it was Auburndale, and went by this enormous sports complex. It's a Saturday, so there were a lot of baseball players and soccer players and kids enjoying the sports ball, and that looked like it was a lot of fun. Went through, the trail was, it was very clear that this incredibly new trail was going to be extended. You could see where it was dug up and continue going straight, but I had to go around it, because obviously it wasn't built, and went through, I don't know what to describe it, a town, city, suburb, exurb, not sure. Just wound my way around here on a variety of wide enough shoulders that were pretty nice, good road, and then a sidewalk where it was a good sidewalk as opposed to a mediocre shoulder, like, only a few inches, so I chose the sidewalk and was rewarded by that. And now I'm at this really strange, super wide area of shoulder. Thought I would take a quick break as I noticed that the headwinds, as I turned into it, increased a little bit, so thought I would grab a little drink. I'm doing fine. I'm not sure how I am on time. It's 3 o'clock right now, so I have 3 hours of sun. So at this rate, I'm not going to be able to take a huge break in Lakeland. So what I might do is just grab food to go and then continue, because I would like to be pulling up before sundown. The area where I'm going to be staying, it looks like it's a bit on the trafficy side. So I think I would be rewarded by not doing that after sundown. So I think I'm just going to keep pedaling along and grab food to go, and that'll be better. There is a shorter way to go, but I think I wanted to go through Lakeland again and have the opportunity to get food in a place where there was more options. So that's that. Off we go. Next stop, hopefully Lakeland, Florida, in about 10 miles. All right, it is about not quite 4:30, it's about 4:21, and I am on the outskirts of Lakeland. I've got about an hour and a half until the sun sets, and I should have plenty of time. I think I've got less than an hour of riding until I get to my spot. So I'm just not super hungry right now, and I know that where I'm heading doesn't have a ton of food options, but what I'm thinking of doing is maybe just riding there and perhaps just getting like an Uber or a Lyft to some place where I can get food and do that back and forth, or walk or something. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. I had that whole sandwich, and I'm feeling good. And I just kind of just want to keep riding. I'm enjoying it. It's funny, this is feeling very northwestish, this weather. It's cool and gray, and the rain stopped, but it's still a little moist out. It's been great riding. I've been really enjoying it. The route was kind of interesting. I would say this was a superior route than the one that I had last year. Just different. I mean, I didn't feel like I was exposed. It was it was good. I've liked it so far. We'll see how it goes here at the end here. I feel like that there are some gnarlier sections closer to where my Airbnb is, but we will see. Keep on rolling. From Plant City, Florida, in an echoey Airbnb. I'm just realizing it's the first time I've talked since I walked in. It's the end of day one of the Kessel run, and I have to say, what a really delightful ride it was today. I guess I'll just say this straight up, and I think I said this with last year's version of the Central Florida ride. The riding is very utilitarian. There's some really interesting, beautiful parts. I saw some egrets, and I saw all sorts of really interesting birds, and the sounds are very different. I'm just not from around here, and so it's really cool to see the wildlife and whatnot. But there's, frankly, a lot of kind of like, regular old suburban roads and stuff like that you're on. But even that's kind of fun, just as a change of pace. And what I love most about this trip is how it's so multimodal in terms of, now, I'm obviously on the same bike, I'm just cycling, but the roads, the trails, everything has its own personality, and it's all very different. And I think that's been really cool. I do have to say, I don't know why I find it kind of hysterical. The Brompton is a weird enough bike as it is, but when you're bicycling in places where people aren't used to seeing bike tourists, man, the looks you get are pretty funny. It's like, it's the double takes. It's not, and everybody was actually pretty cool, with one exception of some jackalopes and some
teenagers being teenagers in Lakeland, whatever. I used to be that kid. But anyways, it's funny to get that double take, and it's just like, yep, I'm the weird guy. But yeah, it was totally fun. Interestingly, I did not do a Google Street Maps of this last, I'd say maybe 8-9 miles between Lakeland and where I'm staying. And just the way it looked like close to I-4, because I had to go up and over and cross it and be on what looked like service roads. And I thought it was going to be really busy and really crazy. Well, as it turned out, they were lovely, very low traveled roads with nice houses and occasionally a dog that would come out and greet me at the fence line. It was really very chill. It was for a 44-mile ride on legs that haven't done miles like that for a few months, it went exceedingly well. Towards the end, I was starting to feel it in that Achilles tendon a little bit, but now that I've been off the bike for a few minutes, it's been perfectly fine. Bike is, I can't say enough good things. I said it earlier about the Brompton as a touring bike, especially for this type of a trip where it's not going to be really rugged miles. It's all going to be on pavement or on paved trails and things like that. It's just a really comfortable ride and a really well-built, well-engineered bike. And I've just been so thrilled with what kind of touring has been possible with it. So very, very excited about what's to come with this bike. I don't know what's going to be next. I'm sure I'm going to be coming up with some other cool ideas for it. But, it takes you places because of its portability, and then you can just ride it wherever you want to go. So it's been great. The weather was cool, but not cold. I was comfortable the whole way with exactly the layers that I had. I did not need rain pants. I'm definitely going to enjoy a shower, and, I've got the stuff to get into for tomorrow, and hopefully, I do hope I don't stink people out on the plane. I may have to figure out a way to do a modified but socially acceptable kind of cleanup at the airport, perhaps, because if I were to get on a plane in this state right now, I don't think people would enjoy it too much. But then again, I think I'm going to get into the Tampa area much earlier than this tomorrow. So it'll all work out just fine, I think. I'm not sure if I've got much more to say on here at the end of day one, other than, I'm so grateful that I've got the opportunity to break up the monotony of winter and be able to get a tour in now. And I think in past years, I just always took the off season for what it was, and I would just kind of let my bike touring muscles atrophy a little bit, and I'd have to play catch up in the spring. And now this is going to be the second year in a row where I didn't take a season off, and I think that that's really wonderful. I think the other thing that I've noticed is that I am bicycling more in DC lately on a daily basis to get to an office, and that's been, even though it's very short, it's really short. I have the craziest short commute. It literally takes me 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes 5, to get to my office, and that's really short. But the fact that I do that 4 times a day, because I come back to take care of the dogs at the end of the day, just that little bit of cycling has really, I think, kept me in good cycling shape, and I'm really grateful for that as well. So just the little things, to have a mild winter and to be able to be cycling what it looks like it will be year round, is I think something that makes me happier. I'm always happier when I'm on a bike, and it was a great way for me today to sort of decompress a little bit from the Disney kind of stuff, which was a lot of fun and really cool, and I got a lot out of it, but allowed me to put it into some perspective and allowed me to just do the kind of meditation, I guess, that I do while I'm on a bike, and enjoy a different route than what I did before. And I'm really glad that I did it, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. just a little preview. I don't have as many miles tomorrow, but I am hoping to maybe do a little bit of a deviation from the route that I have right now, because with a shorter day, I might be able to get into Tampa and go someplace where I can go, I don't know, get some lunch and a beer on the water someplace. And I think I'm going to spend some time tonight figuring out where that might be, as a way to sort of wrap up the Kessel run a little bit. And, I really think that would be a fun way to wrap things up. But I'm also dreaming of my spring tour possibilities. And I've got a few things in mind. So maybe I'm going to think about that a little bit more while I finish off my bike ride tomorrow. There's nothing quite like ending a bike tour, and rather than getting depressed that a bike tour is over, but to think about your next one. At least that's how I like to do it. So, end of day one, great stuff, nothing but good stuff to say. You'll be happy to know, I'm sure you're all wondering, Tim, your lightsaber, is it doing okay? Well, it looks fine. I haven't taken it out yet. Maybe I'll rehook it together to test it just to make double sure that it's okay. But yeah, I think we're in good shape. And I think the real challenge might be, how am I going to get the blade part back tomorrow? I've been kind of noodling around ideas on that. And do I want to risk checking it or whatever? But anyways, more to come on all of that. See, I told you I wasn't going to talk too much Star Wars, but I do have the challenge of a very unusual thing that I am carrying around on my bike. And, it is kind of weird, but it's effectively a pool noodle. So it even though it's sitting, I may try the Annalisa Vandenberg trick. Who knows? Maybe I'll try that tomorrow as I ride into Tampa and have my 3 feet be claimed by Lightsaber case. Maybe. We'll see. That'll be all about day 2, which will come in a little bit. Statistics day 1, miles biked 43.8, orange groves 1, rain, yes, lightsabers fastened to rear racks 1, sweet paved trail miles 12.1, flats 0, delivery pizzas consumed 1, beers available 0, episodes of Clone Wars watched 13. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittis, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Stuart Bucket, Mr. T, Roxy Arning, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Paul Culbertson, Scott Culbertson, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robert, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtold, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Goffman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grosbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinhardt, John Lecco, Stephen Granada, Philip Muller, Kevin Olhausen, and Robert Lackey. And thanks also to all past and anonymous contributors for helping make the show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.